The truth is out there, somewhere.
What are they?
I don't know.
And now, President Trump is promising to begin the process of identifying what the government knows about UFOs and aliens. Earlier Thursday, he accused former President Barack Obama of allegedly revealing classified information when Obama was asked on a podcast about aliens.
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51.
He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information.
The former president's confirmation that we might not be alone.
That's it. We got aliens.
Led to so much online speculation that he quickly felt compelled to clarify his stance on Instagram, writing, "I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us." Really? But the notion that more information may have been taken to our leaders than they're letting on really took off midweek when Lara Trump, who's married to the president's son, told another podcast,
there is some speech that he's gonna break out and talk about, and it has to do with maybe some sort of extraterrestrial life.
but the White House press secretary brushed that off.
Well, a speech on aliens would be news to me. That sounds very exciting, though. I'll have to check in with our speech writing team.
Now, this isn't the first time the government has promised to probe what it knows about aliens. Back in 2024, the Pentagon released a report that said they found no evidence that the U.S. had encountered what it called extraterrestrial technology, and said most sightings were just ordinary objects that had been misidentified.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, let's start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Ba'Shem Rakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, the elders of Great Millstone, the men that told me this truth. Peace and salutation, brakathum to all you sincere Akim out there that's laboring in this truth throughout the four corners of the earth. All right, real quick, I had just seen something that that was posted online, and it has to deal with something that Barack Obama had mentioned early in the week, about I believe he went on a podcast and he was mentioning about aliens or whatnot, and the guy that was interviewing him, he asked him if the aliens are real, and he said, yeah, the aliens are real, whatever. So Trump, he was asked a question about what Obama said, and he was like, that Obama gave declassified information. He wasn't supposed to do that. So whatever it was, and then you had Obama the next day, he backtracked and said he didn't find no evidence of the existence of aliens, right? Which we all know that that's what they do. They try to cover things up, and through the spirit, that's what they do. Everything that these devils do, they try to cover up, but it's too late, because we're seeing evidence of people with their smartphones. They're capturing sight of these so-called UFOs and whatnot, which are the chariots of Israel. These are what the so-called, what they call aliens, or these are the angels of the Lord. All right, and they ride around in these vehicles, and it's going to be made manifest when the Lord comes back. All right, it tells you in real quick, let me just get it, in the book of Matthew chapter 24 and verse 30. It says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, the Son of Man being who the world English calls so-called Jesus, which his name is Yahweh Shai. All right, and he's coming back with the multitude of angels, and this is prophesied even going back to the time of Enoch. Okay, that when the Lord appears, he's coming back with the multitude of angels to destroy this place and to deliver the elect. All right, it says, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Now, when it says clouds, it's talking about actual so-called UFOs or chariots, all right? It's not an actual cloud that the Lord is going to appear on, okay? So you know, these are the existence of these things. When we've been trying to warn you and tell you that, because you're not going to see these things in mainstream news. It's not gonna be reported. So us being the watchmen, all right, we're reporting these things and letting you people know of the time we're about to witness, we're coming into, because the scriptures do mention it's going to be a war in heaven. All right, a war in heaven. Let me read on. It says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds and from one end of heaven to the other. You see, so how they gonna gather the elect from the four winds? Through these vehicles, the chariots, man. All right, and you know, we believe through the Spirit they're all gonna be, you know, going to different places throughout the whole earth, because that's where the elect is scattered, and they're gonna be taking and beaming these individuals up, the elect that are scattered, into one grand gigantic fathership, man. Okay, you see, so these so-called aliens, all right, these are the angels of the Lord, man, and they're gonna have a job to do in that day. Let's go, because I mentioned Revelation, right? Revelation 12:7. Let me get that real quick. Revelation 12:7, because see, these devils, they're preparing. They'll tell you, yeah, you know, these aliens, that, you know, and make fun of it, you know, like it's a big spoof or something. But they know what time it is, man. They see certain things that they can't report to the public, and they'll, you know, every time somebody brings up aliens or whatnot, they think, you know, it's like they'll make a big joke out of it. All right, but they know what time it is. That's why you had Trump. He set up the U.S. Space Force, which they've been plotting that thing since the 80s. You know, with Ronald Reagan, with the whole Star Wars program. So they already know that the prophecy of our Lord coming back, because they wouldn't set up these you know, these Space Force and, you know, military, you know, because I believe it's like the United States Space Force, I believe, is like the youngest branch of the U.S., you know, because it's most focusing on what's going on in space. Because if it wasn't such a threat of what's, you know, what them calling them, you know, the aliens or whatnot, if they wasn't such a threat, why would they develop, you know, the United States Space Force, right? But let me bring that out real quick. You know, I don't want to keep blabbering. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. It says, and there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, right? Michael being the archangel, all right, the chief angel under Yahweh Shai, okay, which the Lord is going to use in those days, okay, to fight against Esau, man, and the other heathen nations. Okay, they said, you know, basically they're going to stop fighting each other, because that was something that, you know, was said back in the 80s, that they will have an agreement that they would stop fighting each other, and they will fight against a foreign entity or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So they already understand that prophecy. It says, and the dragon fought and his angels, right? Because when you read 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter, the Lord is going to put the spirit on Esau to thus fight. You see? It says, and prevailed not. Because why? They're not going to be able to win this battle. Okay? This battle is going to be fought. You know, it's going to be something spiritual, man. All right? The weapons that the Lord is bringing, okay, as far as it's from the heavens, man. All right? This ain't no regular spacecraft. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's going to destroy a lot of shit, man. Okay? And it's going to be fought spiritually, like with the ability that these chariots are able to do and conduct. You know, Esau thinks that his his technology is going to outdo the technology of the Most High? Are you crazy? So it says, and prevail not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven, right? Because eventually they're going to be taken down. All right, you know, their seat or their position as the top men on the earth is going to be done away with. They're going to be eventually put down. All right, that's going to be the end of America's hegemony, the end of America's rulership, their military, everything is going to be destroyed. All right, because I said that. Let me get real quick the book of Jeremiah chapter 16, because the Lord's name is gonna be manifested in the earth. It's gonna be magnified in the earth, right? Because right now, you know, you have people that they don't know the names Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, right? They don't know the true name, right, of our God and His Son. Okay, but in that day it's going to be known, just like how it was during the time of Egypt. You see what I'm saying? You had Rahab the harlot. Okay, they would speak about, you know, even though she was a heathen, she spoke about the destruction of what our God did to Egypt. All right, ancient Egypt. So now we're in the modern day Egypt, which is America, and the Lord is about to perform the same act, but this time it's going to outdo ancient Egypt. All right, and not only that, only the elect is going to be delivered on this go around. So let's go to Jeremiah chapter 16 and verse 14. It says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north. And that's talking about here in North America. All right. Eventually, it's not going. It's still being talked about how the Lord delivered the children of Israel, you know, during the time of Egypt, and how Pharaoh, you know, the Lord hardened his heart. Still to this day, we see movies on it, but now, this time around, is going to really outdo the time of ancient Egypt, the deliverance of the elect in these times. It says, and from all the lands, right, all the lands where the elect is scattered, whether he had driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. All right, so we're about to inherit back the land of Israel, because right now you got them gutter rats there, you know, them tiny hats living and occupying in our land, man. All right, and what they're doing, they're defiling the land. Okay, so the real true inhabitants are going to return back to their land after America is destroyed, and also along with Israel is going to be destroyed as well. But guess what? That place is going to be built back up, unlike America. Okay, so let me get real quick the book of 2nd Esdras 13th chapter, because I mentioned, you know, it's going to be a war in heaven, which that war is going to take place on the earth. All right, so let's go to 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter. I'm not going to make this long. Real quick, let me start at 1. It says, and it came to pass, after 7 days I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And this is talking about our Lord Yahweh Shai, when he comes back with the, you know, the thousands of heaven, the angels, right? You know, he's going, but it says all eyes shall see the Lord, because he's going to come back in a great big chariot. All right, the fathership. That's why, you know, people are going to be scared. They're going to be nervous. Even the elect, okay, they're going to be scared and nervous, man. hoping that we get beamed up, so we don't have to take part in the destruction that's going to take place in that day. So it says, and whatsoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when he filleth the fire. And that's talking about those laser beams, all right, that's going to be shot out through those chariots. You see, we always bring up movies like, War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, the new one, or the most recent one. You see, but it ain't gonna be like how Tom Cruise was, dodging those laser beams and shit. Nah, people gonna be getting zapped and turning into powder. All right, that's gonna be an actual event that's gonna take place on the earth. You see, and it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the earth, from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Right, that's talking about, them trying to come against our Lord, come against Yahweh Shai. They're going to fight. All right, they're going to try to subdue him. You see, and when it says come out the sea, it's talking about the firmament. All right, because you have waters above the firmament. That's actual, water, and then you got water underneath the firmament. Okay, and you got your sea, the waters. Okay, that's what it means. It says, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew upon it. So Esdras, seeing this chariot, so he compared it as onto a mountain. Okay, that's how big the chariot itself looked, and the Lord is going to be on top of the chariot. You see, so it says, but I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet there's fight. You see, so that's the pride of this devil, even to the point where he's gonna feel like he could take down the same one that created him, the same one that gave him the same blessing, that he's gonna try to take down. All right, it says, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. And when I saw this, I was afraid, man. All right, so that's the prophet Esdras, man. The Lord put it in his mind to see these things, to have a vision, have dreams of this actual event that's about to take place. All right, so that's why, hey, you could just imagine, that's why these devils are nervous. That's why they don't want to bring things out and expose certain things, because why? They know that these things are actually going to happen very soon. All right, so hey, man, we're about to witness, we're in some very exciting times. We're about to very, very soon witness the destruction of Babylon the Great, America, man. All right, and this event that we're gonna see, man. The scriptures mention, to see the fall of our enemies. We're gonna literally see the fall of our enemies, man, very soon, man. All right, so I just wanted to bring that out, because they still want to push the narrative of these the aliens and whatnot or whatever, but those are the angels of the Lord, man, and they're very soon about to make their way on the earth. Very soon you're going to see them. You're not going to see them as little orbs and little dots, because they're so high in the sky. They're going to come down very low, and you're going to see them for how they truly are. All right, so with that, I'm gonna end it there. All praises due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahshai. Till the next time, I say Shalom.